Welcome back to the channel. So today we will be solving this transactions per visit interview problem. This was asked in Microsoft and Morgan Stanley coding interview, and this problem you can find on Coding Ninja's platform. So the problem statement is quite big, and we will be solving this question over here. But before that, for a better understanding, we will be seeing the input and output over here. We will then code it on the DEwithDhairy console, right? And then we will copy paste the same code over the Coding Ninja's platform and check if our solution is working or not. So if you see here in the input, we have this visit table and the transaction table, and in the output, we need only these two column, the transaction count and the visit count, right? This is a very interesting problem. Like you will learn a lot of things in this problem. Like I myself found very interesting this problem. So if you see the columns which we have in the visit is user ID and visit date, and in the transaction table we have user ID, visit date, and amount. So if we see here, like these two uh, columns from the visit are same in transaction. It is like um, whenever we have a transaction or any purchase, we will have those record in the transaction table, and whenever user is visiting to the, like, let's say, store, those records would be in the visit table. If you can see here, like not all the users have made the transaction. So if you see here we have 12 and 19, but here we don't have, right? So we only have the records where we have the transaction which were done by the user. So let's see the problem statement. Write a SQL query to find how many users visited the bank and didn't do any transaction. How many visited the bank and did one transaction, and so on. So it's like, let's say, let me explain you with a code like this output. So basically, there are total 4 users who visited the bank and did zero transaction. Got it? Similarly here, there are total three like visits of user who visited the bank and did 3 transactions, right? So these numbers are not users count. These are visit count. Got it? Let's say one user have visited today, right? And like he has visited today and have done one transaction, so it will be counted like that, right? So these things will be clear uh, when we will see this in the execution mode, right? So I think the problem statement is simple. We just need to find, like, how many users have visited for each transaction, and we need to generate, like, let's say if there are, like, after computing this, if there are maximum of 4 transactions, like max 4 transactions, then we need to consider from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like we need to consider till this, like how many total visits are there. It's not like we cannot skip any sequence in between. So it's like, um, how many users visited, how many, like, visits are there for transaction 0. Like there are total 4 visits where we have 0 transaction. So on and so forth. So let's see this with example. Okay, with this example. Okay, so let me explain you this first record. Okay, so if you can see here, user 19. So I explained this before. So whenever we will have a transaction, that record will be there in the transaction table, right? So if you can see here 19, here we don't have. So 1, 12, we don't have. 2 plus 1, okay. And then 9, do we have 9? Yes, we have. So we can ignore. 8, do we have? Yes, we have. 7, we have? Yes, we have. 2, 2 we have, but let's see the date now. Like the visit date will be same, right? 3, 1. Here we have 2, 1. That is um 3, 1. Okay, this one. So you can see here, like the user 2 visited on 2 different day. Okay. User 2 has visited on two different day. That is, okay, I don't know why it is not working. Let me. mm, so user 2 has visited on two different day. That is on, I don't know why it is stopped working. Let me grab this one. Okay, this is creating problem. Okay, I think now it is working. So you can see here, he visited on third and second, but he did the transaction or he made the transaction on only third, right? So like this is the third, like on third we counted, but this is not matching, right? So there is one more where we don't have any transaction. Similarly, we have three record for this user. One out of them, like two are the dates on which he made the transaction, and one of the day he didn't made the transaction. That is, on second and fourth he made the transaction, and on the first he didn't made any transaction. So here we have one. So total four visits are there where we don't have any transaction. So that's why we have the records like this. Like there are total four visits where the transaction count is zero. Let's see this one now. Okay. Okay. I have like overwritten this one. So you can see here we have we have transaction count 3 and the total visit is 1. Let's see who is that user. So you can see here user 9 he has made 3 transaction in one visit, right? So total visit is 1 and transaction count is 3. So this is basically the input and output, and the solution would be quite interesting. Let's now code it up, or before coding let's see the approach in which we will be solving this problem. Okay, so the first step is getting this first record where the transaction count is 0. How we can get? So what we will do, we will join visit table with the transaction table. Let me like, right? We will join visit table with the transaction table. Like this table, we will join visit table will be joined with transaction table. Then we will get the 0 transaction record, right? So wherever this visit ID will not be present in the transaction table, that record will be right, like when the user has not made any transaction. So this is the first step. Then what we will do, we will union this data with the record where we have the transaction, right? And how this we can find? Using the transaction table. This is quite simple, right? This we can easily get using the transaction table. Okay. And the third step will be once we get these two, we will get the maximum transaction, right? Maximum transaction, and we will generate the sequence. Let's say maximum transaction is 4, then we will get a record from 0 to 4, right? And the fourth is final output, right? We will get the final output using this step 2 and 3, right? So now you know the question and everything and approach also. Now you may try the solution, right? And if you're stuck, like you can check out, or you can resume the video and check out my solution of it, right? So let's start. So I will provide this input and output and everything statement in the description section. You may try it by yourself also, right? So let me run this. This is the input and output. So basically this is the input table first of all. Let me run this. Okay, there is issue. Okay, so basically if we run two commands, then we need to put semicolon. Okay, so this is the visit table. Let me zoom a little. This is the visit table and this is the transaction table, right? So as I mentioned, we will first start with joining these two tables to get a record where we don't have any transaction. So we'll write select from uh, visits as T1, and we will do left join because we want everything from the visit table so that we can identify which are the user who have not made any transaction. Transaction as T2 on T1 dot user ID should be equal to T2 dot user ID and t1 dot visit date should be equal to t2 dot transaction date, right? And what we can do, we can select everything from this, and from the right table what we can do, we can get t2 dot let's user id as t2, we can alias this as t2 user id, right? And let me run this. Okay, now the things would be much clearer. So now you can see like this user has not made any transaction that we saw, right? This user made the transaction on other day but not on this day. Similarly, this user, this user, this user. So as we saw, there are total 4 records which don't have any transaction, right? So this we can easily get now, right? So we can just write where t2 dot user id, okay, t2 dot user id is null. These are the record we want to select, right? So these are the 4 record. And next thing what we can do, so what we can do, we can just have the count over here because we don't need anything, right? So this will be visit count, right? We can write visits count, or we can say simply write visit count, right? So these are the 4 visit where we don't have any transaction. So the number of transaction was 0, so we can write 0 as transaction. So let me run this. Okay, so there are total 4 visit where we have 0 transaction, and this is what we need in the output also, right? You can see here like we need transaction count column and visit count. So we have generated this first record. Now we need to generate the remaining 3 record. Okay, uh, let me do. So let it be here. Now let's play with the transaction table. Okay, so let me bring this down. Let me run this. Like the code is little bigger, but if you try by yourself in your console, the things would be much clearer. Okay, so now these are the records where we have the transaction, right? So what we can do, we can group the data on user ID and transaction, right? Then what we will get the number of transaction done by each user and the respective date, right? So that will help us in finding the records where we have the transaction. So we can write group by user ID comma transaction date, and we can just copy this and write over here comma count of 1 as um, transaction count, right? So let me explain you. So you can see here like this user 9 on the this transaction day 25th, he has made 3 transactions. So we should have one record where we have 9 user ID 9 and transaction date 3, and the total transaction count is 3. Similarly for this one, we should have 1. For this one we should have 1. For this one we should have 1. For this one we should have 1, right? Because like if you think for one we should have 2, no, like since we are doing the on we need to bother about the visit date also because we need to find the visit count. That's why, since these are the 2 different visits, so we need to group the data on the transaction date also, right? So let me run this, then the things would be clear. Now you can see here like the user 9 on this day has made 3 transactions. Similarly for the other, they have made one transaction on each day and the respective user, right? Now we have the transaction count. Now we need the total number of visit for each transaction. So what we can do, we can put this in the uh, subquery and write. So this is select star, and let me this name this as a from a. Let me run this. So again, select star from where I'm making mistake. Okay, syntax near this. Okay, okay. So basically, what we need to do, we need to put this from here, and that's right. I think that this is the syntax. Okay, yeah. Now we are getting the output. So we have made the subquery, and what we will do, we will group the data on transaction count. So like we will get for how many visits are there for each transaction. So for three, there are total one visit, right? So we will get three, and the corresponding count will be one. For transaction count one, how many visits are there? Total five visits are there, right? So we will get that. So what we'll do, we can like write group by transaction. We can just copy paste this. We can write transaction count, and let me write this over here. So transaction count comma count one as visit, right? So this will give us the number of visit and transaction. Okay, so now you can see for transaction three transaction count, we have total one visit. For one transaction count, we have five, right? And earlier we had generated for zero, we had four. So I think we have generated three records. Let me clean this first and explain you like till what point we have reached. Okay, so we calculated this record, right? The first record, and this record and this record, right? We are still remaining with this one, right? Where we don't have like the transaction count as 2. But in the problem, like when you will read this carefully, you will get you will you will get this point. So we need to generate all the number from the till the maximum transaction count, right? We need to generate, like since here the maximum transaction count is 3, so we need to generate transaction from 0 to 3, right? 0 1 2 3. So this is the problem statement. So for that one, what we will do in like postgre, we have generate series function using which we can do. So let me explain you what is this generate series is. So this takes start point and end point. Let's say I want to generate a number from uh, 0 to 10. So I will write like this, and this will generate a 0 to 10 number, right? Similarly, here we have 3, so we can write 0 to 3, right? So you can see we have those numbers, but we cannot have this static value, right? We need to use this as a we need to use this as a dynamic value. This can change, right? So we will see that, but before that, let me join or union these two tables. So what we can write, we can write over here union, right? And let me run this, the record with the like zero transaction, and these are the record where we have uh, the transactions, right? So let me run this. So now we have these things combined, right? So we can put these things in the CT. So we can write with CT as, and group this. We can write select star from CT, right? Let me run this again just to confirm. Yes, now we are good till this point. The second, now the next step is getting that those numbers, right? So we can write select select generate series, and we can write 0 from 0 to maximum. So we'll write select maximum of what? Maximum of transaction count, right? From CT, right? So this will be our transaction count column now as transaction count, and this we need to put in the bracket, else it will give an issue. So let me run this. Okay, now you can see we have this thing. So this we can put in the CT1, right? CT1 as, okay. Now The next step will be joining CT table CT table with CT1 table to get the corresponding output, right? So here in the CT1, you can see we have all the four records, but in the CT table, we had only three records, right? The two was missing. Now we can join these two tables, CT and CT1 on transaction count to get each and everything. And we will do which join? Left join, right? The left table will be CT1 and right table will be CT, right? Because we want each and every record from the CT1, right? So let's do that. Select from CT1 as T1, left join CT as T2 on T1 dot transaction. Okay, let me just copy paste this. Transaction is equal to T2 dot transaction count, right? And we can have here T1 dot star comma T2 dot star. Let me do this. We can simply write star also, but okay, that's fine. So now you can see for 0 we got 4, for 1 we got 5, for 3 we got 1. But you can see here wherever we don't have any transaction, we are getting null, right? Visit count as null. So we can just write case when statement over here. So let me write this. So we just want T1, from T1 we want transaction count in the output, and we can write here the case when. So we can write case when T1 dot, or we can write T2 dot visit count is null. So whenever this is null, then we need to put 0, else we need visit count, right? So like for this one we will get 4, for this one we will get 5, for this one, since this is null, we need to replace this with 0, right? So we can write like this, visit, and as visit count. The name of the column is visit count, right? And let me run this. So code is a little big, but yeah. Yes, I think this is what the required out, right? And let me cross check 4501, and this is in the serial order. And here also we have 4501. Okay. Yes, this is the solution. I think the code is quite big, but the way I solved, like splitting this into the multiple pieces, you can also try, and you will also get the correct output, right? So what we can do, we can just copy paste this code over here to check if this is working. I have copied, and let me run this. Yes, I think we are getting this output. Let me try submitting this. Wrong answer. I think the column names are mismatching. So let me just write the column name in proper way. Okay, the first is transactions count. So we can have this as transaction count. And then second is visit count. And let me try submitting this now. Yeah, this got accepted. So yes, if you like this content, please do like, subscribe, and share the channel. And if you're new to this channel, you can check out our other playlist also. I have covered a lot of interview problem on this channel on different tech stacks like SQL, PySpark, Pandas, and DSA, right? So you can check out that. So let's meet in the next problem. Until then, bye.